we all knew tax rises would come in. There's no magic money tree. We're £2.7 trillion in debt. Let's first look at how Theresa May, how Rachel Reeves might go after our money. If they're not going after income tax, they're not going after VAT, what other routes could there be?
Rachel Reeves is a Chancellor. She's got a budget on October the 30th, Martin. She has said that there'll be no increase in income tax, no VAT, as you say, and add that national insurance. That means there's around a 40% gap in the funds they've got to raise from taxation. People are looking at what they might try and do. Would they look at inheritance tax? That's quite a small number. £200 million might be raised from that. More likely, capital gains tax, maybe increasing that to 40% from 20%, or pension relief. That's your pensions point there. So everyone's wondering where will she find the money? This is because she claims, Labour claims, the government claims, with backing from the OBR, the official forecast of the government, and the independent IFS in some part, there's a £22 billion black hole. She was asked last night on an LBC podcast, and she admitted for the first time, I think we'll have to increase taxes in the government. Sorry, forgive me. I think we'll have to increase taxes in the budget. Now, that's interesting because that's not what we thought was coming. She refused to rule out increases in pension tax and elsewhere. But back in May, for your programme, May 28th, in Rolls-Royce, I asked her these very questions. And here's what she had to say then.
I don't think we've got it. Let's just keep going. We'll pull that up in a minute. But I remember the interview very, very well. And she did seem at the time confused about tax avoidance and tax evasion. And we were saying then that we would have to look at tax rise. If we can't get the clip, remind us, what did she say? Well,
she said, in terms that I'm not going to introduce wealth taxes twice. Yeah. I said, what about capital gains tax? And she said, no, we're not going to do that either. We're not going to. There's no wealth taxes planned for the manifesto. I think what's fascinating here is it looks like we now have wealth taxes back on the table, and as you say, pensions could be a target. We saw earlier this week, didn't we, how they're going to lift this cap on care costs.
Yeah. Now this is worth pausing on, because the dementia tax back in 2017, it almost let Jeremy Corbyn into Downing Street. And that was because the rules were changed, Chris, bear with me. So if you had over £23,250 in savings, you had to start paying for your care. And she raised that to 100 grand. So anything below...
That's the Tory government did.
The Tory government. So anything below 100 grand, Theresa May could take. It was hated so much, she had to do a violent U-turn before the election, but it still lingered. Here's a party that's after your pensions. Boris Johnson changed the rules and capped the cost, lifetime costs, £86,000. Phew. Still a lot, but nevertheless, maybe a cost that we're prepared to take. Then Rachel Reeves said words that should chill pensioners. It will not be possible to take forward those charging reforms. What does that mean, Chris?
Well, people who are concerned about this area are appalled. Andrew Dilnot, who wrote the first attempt at dealing what's known as this death tax area, this dementia tax, he called it a tragedy. Age UK says it leaves pensioners on their own, Martin. They say Caroline Abrahams, director of Age UK, the charity, says it's gone from merely creaking to a state of near collapse. The IFS are saying it will leave people paying extremely high social care costs. The reason why this is it's dementia, which means you have a long, drawn-out...
You live longer.
...decline.
Pay more.
Yeah, pay more, but you have longer time with your disease, hence higher care costs. Now, you could see people losing property, their homes, trying to sell their properties to pay for care costs, but where will they live? So the idea that the Tories had was to try and mitigate that with this £86,000 cap. That's gone. And what caps right now, there's lots of uncertainty, I think, for anyone who's facing dementia, early-stage dementia, worrying about it. It's a worry.
Now, we have got that Rachel Reeves clip now, Chris, from you at the Rolls-Royce factory.
Yeah, it's worth listening again.
Let's throw to it now.
Nothing on wealth taxes yet. Is that that's the treasure chest you're keeping locked up?
Labour will not be introducing wealth taxes.
On homes, that kind of thing, capital gains tax?
Labour are not going to be introducing wealth taxes. Indeed, Chris, we've set forward our plans and they are all fully costed and fully funded. And there will be nothing in our manifesto that requires any further increases in taxation.
So that was Rachel Reeves there saying that they won't go after capital gains tax. Interestingly, a tweet resurfaced yesterday from 2017 where she said Labour will always defend the winter fuel tax for
Yes.
pensioners. So we're seeing all sorts of volte-farces. No surprise, the biscuit tin is empty. But back to this dementia tax. I think this is the big story that hasn't really been picked up on. Final day of Parliament yesterday. And Chris, the Alzheimer's Society today have said the burden is now entirely on individuals to fund their own care. That is a sentence, I think, that should send chills down the spine of many, many Brits.
Any pensioners who have some savings are trying to work out how can I afford to spend that? How much do I need to keep hold of in order to I can see out my time? A big worry, a huge worry, and the Tories had tried to deal with that. Labour are saying no. I think also adding that into the winter fuel allowance being removed, it's a worrying time for pensioners under this government.
You know, Chris, I think we need to look more into this tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's try and get an expert on and really, really go into this, because this, to me, is a big story that seems to have gone under the radar on the final day of Parliament